and welcome to the High Octane podcast. This is a Friday Night Fuel production. The place where if I were to trade my co host, I know I'd at least get three first round draft picks. Hey, how we doing, Ricky?
Oh man, we're taking shots early in the show. I see. Yeah, that trade, man. For those of you who don't know, yeah. So we live in the Dallas Fort Worth area, and they kind of had a small trade over the weekend, and yeah, that one stung, and yeah, just a little bit. You kind of broke the news to me. I was out and about, and you broke the news to me, and I'm like, there's no way this happened. And sure enough, we're getting on Twitter trying to figure out what's going on, and yeah, Luka Doncic to the Lakers for Anthony Davis and a couple other players and one first round pick. And I think that's what hurts the most is you only get one first round pick for probably the top three NBA player. And yeah, the city of Dallas and the Metroplex definitely felt a certain way. I was definitely one of those people that felt a certain way. But yeah, I guess it's business at this point, and it's hard being a Mavericks fan right now. And it's just, that was our dude. And we're thinking he's the next Dirk. In another 20 years, he's going to have a statue outside the AAC where the Mavericks play. And come to find out, he's now a Los Angeles Laker. And yeah, that one kind of it stings a little bit.
Yeah, starting it off strong today. So, welcome.
Yeah.
Really excited to have you here tonight for this show. This is going to be a great one as we're going to talk everything Friday Night Fuel. We're going to sprinkle in a little real life NASCAR for you. As you can see at the ticker at the top of the screen tonight, you can see our rundown with a review of what was in Friday Night Fuel last week with the Chicago Street Course. And then we're going to shift gears to a bit of a points update. This is a big one that lays upon the horizon for Friday Night Fuel. A Final Four will be determined at the conclusion of Talladega. And in between points and that track preview, we have a pit stop to make. And yes, we will be talking real life NASCAR news with you here, specifically about the NASCAR Hall of Fame and talking about our thoughts between the candidates that are going in this year. But let's get the show on the road. As we take a look back at the week it was through the rearview mirror, we get to see a twisty, windy, chaotic, and yet pretty straightforward at the same time. A Chicago street course. We have the top five here for you tonight. Ricky was the winner of the Chicago Street Course. So anytime I pick a Gonzalez and the other one wins, I'd like to attribute that as half a point for my predictions. Nathan Estep finishing second. John Gutekunst third. Mark, your brother, was able to come home fourth. And then Spencer Teal, the guy who I vowed I would never pick again, rounds out your top five for Chicago Street Course. This was a tricky one, Ricky, but you seem to be the one in the field that had the car planted. Talk to folks about this race. I mean, on one hand, it was chaotic, but not for you. And so for when it comes to the rest of the field, everything was pretty straightforward. We kind of knew who was going to win until you almost gave it away there at the end.
Yeah, we got caught up in several incidences, but we'll get to that here in a minute. But yeah, we were fast all night. We were the fastest car in practice. We sat on the pole, won the stage, and then eventually won the race. So we kind of swept the weekend last week. And yeah, we put in some work last week. Road courses aren't my thing. I gotta memorize the track a little bit for just braking points and where to point the nose of the race car and when to get back on gas, when to shift, hit your shifting points. And yeah, we put in some work. We spent a little bit of time on Wednesday, really hit it on Thursday with what we needed to do as far as getting faster and building up to the race. And then we did a little bit more before we got in the car. We did like an hour before the session went live, and we did a little bit more practicing. And yeah, it paid off. We were fast, and yeah, we kind of got into it with Eric Hudson, the 77 in turn one. I thought our day was kind of killed then. And then my brother, we're coming out of the carousel where the fountain is, the half circle, and Mark hits the bumps and loses a car, and I'm on the brake, and the car's just bouncing so much that once I did hit the brake, we looped it too, and then Estep was trying to get by, and we kind of just met with how cramped that course is on the backside of the racetrack. Yeah, we just kind of met it and we got into it with him. And then at the end of the last stage, we kind of killed the race car going into the carousel, or a corner right before the carousel. And man, we killed the nose. We couldn't turn as much as we could. And Nate was there catching us at the end, but fortunate for us, we were able to hold on. We had a big enough gap where we could hold on, and then I think Nate got into his head a little bit where he saw how quicker he was than me, and he kind of pushed a little bit more, trying to get more out of the race car. And I felt like if he just would have hit his marks, he's probably the one in victory lane and winning the race. But all in all, still was a great night, great points night. As you see on the bottom, we lead the points, so I've never done that before, so that's pretty cool. First time in an iRacing career to do that, and yeah, it just stars were aligned that day. Mark was quick; he was bad fast, and I knew once he figured it out, um, he was going to be the ones I was looking for to be dominant on the road courses. But Mark kind of stepped on his, you know what, every single time, and he nosed the car one time, and he kept hitting the wall and got killed several other times. And all in all, I thought it still was. I mean, even though we kind of just pulled away, I thought it was a decent race. You know, lap cars were very kind. They weren't in the way like we saw normally at the latest two tracks that we were at, but everybody seemed to give a lot and not just try to plow into each other. And I know some other drivers made a couple of mistakes with braking points and whatnot. Poor John T. I went back and watched his stream, and I felt super bad for him. He was frustrated all night. Kirby kind of missed a braking point going into turn one, and kind of just destroyed his night and put him where he is now in the point standings. But I felt like John would have had a decent night, maybe a top 10 race car. Probably was a 6th to 7th place driver last week, but unfortunately those events happen, and then seeing a lot of people miss braking points and then they just turn right and hit the wall. We're just able to scoot on by, and several others are able to scoot on by. But yeah, definitely a challenging racetrack. If you're not used to road course racing, and the way the car bounced a lot, it was very challenging for certain aspects of the track. So it's fun once you get it down, I guess. Every road course is fun once you get it down, but that one was kind of interesting, to say the least.
Easy for you to say. You were able to boot, scoot, boogie through all that and managed to snag a pretty dominating win there. But it was... You're right. I mean, once you get in a rhythm, once you find what you can do, we talked about this last week with going to the street course. You know, don't push the car or don't push yourself to do more than what you're able to do, and you'll be able to have a pretty decent day. And the drivers that were able to just sort of stick with what they got managed a pretty decent day out of the whole thing. I'm going to put you a little bit on the spot. It's not necessarily in our rundown, but I mean it is something that I know we are thinking about, and probably these drivers are kind of thinking for the next season. How do we, as admins, as people who plan Friday Night Fuel from season to season, get to a place where, you know what, we're going to put something in the schedule like a Chicago street course that is different and extremely challenging, and yet there's precedent for racing the cars that we race on here. So let's try it. What kind of walk us through, you know, what that leap of faith is like as an admin to go, I think I'm going to put this on the schedule for the next year.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely hard, right? You want to do it where it challenges your drivers to see what they kind of have skill set wise. You know, you have your typical road courses that we could go to, and some of them are really easy and some of them are really, really challenging. And I think the one earlier in the year, Brands Hatch, I thought that was an easy racetrack. Now that's just, again, that's just my opinion, right?
Easy for you to say.
Yeah. I thought it was an easy track. I mean, I saw certain drivers get around that place, and it seemed like they were starting to get the groove of things. And then another place like Chicago, right? You don't want to throw anything that's super, super easy. Like Watkins Glen to me is probably the easiest road course on the game. And you know, everybody knows that place. You know where to pass. You know where you need to be fast. You know where to kind of pace yourself, where you're slow with the throttle inputs and all that stuff. But yeah, we wanted to try something that's really, really odd, and you don't see this in a lot of leagues that we all participate in either. And so we try to be different. We did Coda last year. We threw that sucker on the schedule. That's another challenging place, very very long, and you can get an X like that at that place. And then this place, you just didn't want to hit any walls or damage the race car as much as you can, right? So um, you want to be able to challenge your league drivers. In order to challenge them and for them to get better, you got to throw something like this on the schedule, right? So that's kind of what we did, and thankful for John for picking this racetrack. I think we originally had like Sonoma or Road America as this fill-in race, and John's like, let's just go to the street course, and I'm like, okay, whatever. But let's throw it on there then. So we threw it on there, and kudos to John again for throwing it on there and challenging our drivers. And even though we didn't, we had 20 cars against Zach. That's still another win for a place that not everybody has decent speed or they don't know the track. They're watching guys on the server trying to or in the session and they're just trying to learn. All right, where's this guy braking? What's he doing here? Is he like short shifting? Is he real shifting or trail braking? Like what is there was a lot of people watching other people to try to get an understanding of how they were getting around that track. But we'll have some surprises next year. We've already started working on the schedule for next season, and we got a couple surprises that I think will intrigue some of our drivers, and possibly we can get some new drivers to fill during some recruitment races. So we're going to revamp some things, I think, at the end of the season. I know I went on a tangent, a rabbit hole right now, but we're going to revamp some things towards the end of once the season ends, and we're just going to add a little bit more structure to some things, and I think season 3 will probably be a lot different than what we saw in the first 2 seasons.
Yeah, so I think what you're saying on one hand, it's about stretching your drivers, stretching the talent, and encouraging growth where people are, uncomfortable. That's where they learn how to develop some racecraft. And then on the other hand, you do want to stand out in a crowded iRacing space where anybody can join any league that they want, and maybe looking on the schedule and seeing this on here goes, well, that's a little bit different. Maybe we acquire road course specialists who take a look at that and go, yeah, I think I can get a win here. And I do find it fascinating now that we've sort of been in this for a little while with kind of building a league and building a schedule every year to where our conversations go as we plug and play different tracks. So I just want to throw that out there just in case if anybody kind of wondered as to how in the world did this end up here. Well, that's what folks are looking for when they build a league. Let's take a look at the points when it comes to updating you guys on the Friday Night Fuel sprint to the Final Four. And this is going to be a very interesting race come tomorrow with Talladega. But we won't talk about Dega quite yet because we do have these points to go through. As Ricky said earlier, this is a time where he gets to shine as the race winner, and he is the points leader for Friday Night Fuel. And as you can see, the bottom 8 are scrolling through on your screen tonight. And we do have a fight for these playoff spots. Just know that Mark and Ricky have won in this round, but these drivers are still duking it out points-wise in order to progress and make their way into the next round, which, Ricky, the title of this video is Chaos Reigns, but only 4 remain. It's not just talking about the Final Four. Something about Friday Night Fuel is unique in terms of how they structure their playoffs and how the Final Four are going to be duking it out for a championship.
Yeah, so once we have the Final Four at the end of tomorrow night, those guys have 3 races to race for a championship, and I believe that's what separates our league from any other league that we've participated. Normally, it's just a 1-race shootout, and it's sometimes either at a Phoenix or like it is in real life, or it's at Homestead Miami, which is down in South Florida. But yeah, we're doing a round of 3 races, and whoever has the most points at the end of those 3 races will be determined a champion. So that's kind of what we did for season 1, and it worked. It also encourages guys to show up every week. How many times, Zach, have we participated in other leagues where you win and you don't see that guy for 2 weeks because he's already locked in?
Yeah.
Doesn't really matter. He doesn't want to show up. And so now we're encouraging participation as we do this. And this is why we kind of did what we did with each round, right? Even the championship round has 3 races, right? So it just encouraged participation and keep the drivers interested in wanting to race. So that's why we did it. I know the first race I think is at Texas, so that's something that we're really looking forward to once we come back from break. So we'll race tonight. We'll be off next week, and then we'll hit our rounds, which works out great for one individual because somebody's traveling starting on Monday, and if we were to race next week, we'd kind of lose. We'd have to forfeit our spot. So thankful it worked out great. So yeah, we'll come back, go to Texas, and hopefully me or Mark are in victory lane that race just because of where it's at and the ramifications and all that other stuff.
Yeah, and it is going to be a stellar Final Four battle. As we take a look here for the points as they continue to scroll on the screen, I know Ricky, you have a cheat sheet over there. We talked about it in pre-show, some of the more in-depth stats with some of these drivers that are duking it out for a championship. But the reality is, we're going to a track where that doesn't matter. And we know we can identify some drivers here that are duking out for the final couple spots for the championship. There are a few guys here in the 8 that are really, really good at these restrictor plate-esque. I know they don't race restrictor plate anymore, but that's what I'm going to call it. Hey, nature's healing. It might become the Busch Series again, so it's healing. It's coming. So, but we have some drivers here in the top 8 that I think we should be looking out for Talladega to have a big points day.
Yeah, I'm looking at them right now. There's a lot of drivers in this 8 that I think could, I mean, any of them can win, especially at a place that we're going to this week, right? But once we get into kind of like the predictions and all that stuff, I guess since I'm not doing one, right? So, Nate is really, really good at those plate tracks. I think he won at Atlanta earlier this year, and he's just been really solid when it comes to the Daytona, the Atlantas, and Talladegas, and anything that he participates in. So that's probably a driver I'm looking out to watch for this weekend. Right on the cusp, right? Only has a 3-point lead over Brett. Brett's really good. We kind of already have our own thing going on, and we'll talk about it later on in the show when we preview Talladega again. But Wes is good at these things. John's really good at these things. He knows how to side draft really, really well. Yeah, any of these 8, I think, could possibly be in victory lane. I don't know what our strategy is going to be. I don't know if it's just like pedal to the metal or if we're just going to hang out for a little bit, even though we kind of basically just clinched moving on to the next round, right? You have a 18-point buffer to mess with, and so if we don't get 20 cars, right, what's the point of
you're going to help me win?
Put yourselves in hard ways. Yeah, I'll push somebody. I don't know who I'll push, but I'll push somebody.
You'll become somebody's best friend. I mean, that's
yeah. Until the last corner and coming to the tri-oval, and then it's all hands off deck. You can ask Wes Fuller about that one. He probably knows. If he's watching, he knows what I'm talking about. So, yeah, any of these 8, I believe, could possibly be in victory lane tomorrow night. And, man, if I'm Garrett, like, you got to maximize the night, too. You got to find a way to get stage points. You got to lead a point or lead a lap. Probably need to lead the most lap. Probably need to get the fastest lap. Like, you basically probably have to sweep the weekend in order to have a shot, and then you just got to pray that Nate, Brett, Wes, and Kirby just have a bad day. I know Kirby's been struggling a little bit the past couple of weeks, but this is a track where he can just reset, do the same thing as John T. That's probably the mindset as well. Lead a lap, lead the most laps, get stage points, and then possibly try to win the race. Kind of just sweep the weekend. But it's a long shot for John T. But if there's anybody in this field that can do it, it's him. There's a lot of talent in this field, and I think he has the capabilities to get to the front and showing those guys like, yeah, dude, I was 8th, but you know what? I'm in the 4 now.
And he says we never talk about him. Look at him. Look at us. Breaking the mold.
Did a whole segment on him.
Yeah. So, as we continue to talk about these drivers and their mentality for Talladega, I think there is something to be said about the tension that surrounds this kind of race just in general, right? We go from 8 to 4 now, and these guys are going to be laying it all out there because the last 3 races of the season, they're going to be competing for a championship. Then you add on top of that, it's Talladega, so anything can happen. We have driver error, we have net code. You could just simply lose the draft and lose hope. I mean, these kinds of things are very real reality for these guys who are now racing. Oh, for you as well, who are racing for a championship. Kind of walk us through. I mean, you're a little bit different, great, because you did just talk about the points buffer. But I mean, you've been here before, where this is it. Like, it's a very unpredictable wild card race, and you got to go out there and execute. How are these drivers making sure that through the week they are making sure that Talladega is event free and they can go out and do their job and make it to the next round?
Yeah, so probably what you're doing is you're probably throwing up some AI sessions to try to get familiar with the draft, right? You're cranking the skill level up on those AIs as probably as high as you can get them, because at the end of the day, it is packed racing, and you're not really. I mean, I don't know how much you can learn because they get so checked up on the bottom in AI racing, and those guys you can fly by them on the outside, whereas person to person, it's kind of just even, and it depends on what you're doing with your race car and how you're playing the air and all that stuff. So. Um, you know, man, it's really hard, right? It's like, dang, do I want to practice with AI or like it's like a, and I hate to say it's like a damned if you do, damned if you don't moment, right? Where you want to get the experience in the draft and seeing how the air feels, but then again, it's like it's not against person to person, right? Or maybe you're throwing up a couple of hostess throughout the week, try to get people in there because we know how much people love racing at those two places, Daytona and Talladega. You can throw in Atlanta too if you want, but and those lobbies fill up quick when it's those tracks. So maybe you do something like that and try to get some people to just mess around with for a night. And obviously you don't want to test by yourself because you're not going to really learn anything. Maybe try to put down a good qualifying lap. Um, but yeah, for the most part, that's probably what you're doing throughout the week is just trying to get used to how the car feels in the air and when does it blow up? What's the temp going to read? Like,
Yeah.
is it 295, 297? Like, where's that limit where I can push you, get in the red, but then I know I got to get back down to the orange and then eventually the green. So of the water temp and oil temp and all that stuff. So yeah, there's some things that you could probably mess around this week, and hopefully it pays off tomorrow night for the guys who did practice this week.
I also think, and I'm glad you didn't mention it because it gives me something to talk about. But I also think pit road entry and pit road exit here at Talladega is crucial for these guys in order to at least be right with the people that you're going to race with. We often don't think of Talladega as like a tricky pit road, right? Because you're boogieing on down, venturing towards what becomes the tri-oval, and it's this huge, massive piece of racetrack that you can eventually peel on and peter off speed. But being aggressive on pit road is crucial, and if you're not as aggressive getting on as some of those drivers that you're racing around, you can be left behind leaving pit road, and then pit exit as well. I know that's my personal kryptonite. Every time I go to pretty much any racetrack, I know that I'm gonna get smacked leaving pit exit because I'm trying not to wreck or spin out or do something stupid with a commitment line violation or something like that. I'm really conservative when it comes to that. But getting on and off of pit road here is just as challenging as some of those tracks that instantly come to our minds, like a Richmond or a Martinsville. It's just a different art.
Yeah, and you're basically this is the only track you're going to probably go 200 mile an hour at, right? At Daytona, I know you're going about 195. I guess that's 200, 193, 194 in the setup. But yeah, and then shout out to Morris and Till for making the setup for this week. We originally, I guess, weren't going to have one, and looks like it probably is just going to draft a little bit better than the iRacing. That's what I'm assuming it's going to do. But having him make that set, I don't know the speeds of what you can do as far as when you're in the draft. And so if you're going 200 plus, you got to whoa that thing down to 60 mile an hour. And that's pretty challenging at times. I know we're in a straight line and it's like you're just breaking straight and turning left a little bit, right? So it's different when you're going that fast, and you got to hit your marks, and guys are going to probably plow into each other coming to pit road because they're trying to get every inch and every second that counts on pit road to minimize that time that they have. And then you're going to have guys probably spin it and lock the front brakes up and then just miss the commitment cone. And they're back in the grass, and then they got to go back all the way around. And this place is a 2.66 mile track, and that takes forever, A, to get back up to speed, and then B, you got to come. You better hope you have enough fuel to make it all the way back around, or you're it's pretty much game over for you. And then you'll have guys kind of do what they did in real life in the spring race. And I remember seeing this 2 years ago in real life, where some of the guys looped their cars coming to pit road because they had so much rear brake in it. So yeah, there's definitely some challenges that come to this, and then getting back up through the gears, right? You don't want to get above the yellow line because we know that's a penalty, and you got to just kind of maintain it all the way around the bottom of the racetrack till you get to the back. So it's not just put your foot down and let's go. There's some method to the madness that you got to do in order to have a clean race tomorrow night.
All right. Well, let's take a break from talking about points and Talladega and all this and take a pit stop for just a brief moment where we get to now talk about something in the show that's related to motorsport that is outside of Friday Night Fuel. This is the segment that I've really grown to love. It's kind of a bit of a break, but we can pretty much talk about anything and everything. And the biggest news in NASCAR, other than preparing for Daytona, is the NASCAR Hall of Fame ballot is being introduced this time of year, and we get a whole new crop of drivers that are eligible to enshrine their names into the Hall of Fame. And we were able to get 3 drivers into the Hall of Fame. Ralph Moody gets the Pioneer ballot for this year's selection, as NASCAR has made a separate ballot for individuals who might have been forgotten, right, by the modern voter. And a lot of neat names have come into the Pioneer ballot. Ricky, you were talking to me about Ralph here in the beginning of the show, because to be quite honest, I didn't know anything about him. But Ricky Rudd gets 87% of the votes, so he is in, and barely squeaking in this year at 52% is Carl Edwards. So Ricky, I hope it's fresh enough on your mind, or you have a cheat sheet. But let's talk about Ralph Moody here on the Pioneer ballot, and talk about this guy that I'm sure a lot of our viewers don't know a whole lot about.
Yeah, I had to watch a quick video to figure out who this dude was, and come to find out he's an. Yeah, I said, dude, I'm sorry. I guess I got to be more professional sometimes. But hey, you get that sometimes with these big jobs. But if John Gutekunst you're watching, shout out to you, my friend. He always uses that line. But yeah, Moody, he raced for a little bit back in the early days, kind of in the 1960s, 1950s era, and then quickly went to a race strategist. And this is what shocked me. He won 2 Daytona 500s, one with Pete Lorenzen, and the other one was with Mario Andretti, which was that was a shocker. I didn't know he was his race strategist for that. And then he kind of did it. He partnered with somebody, and then they ended up winning like 96 races in the time span of like 65 to maybe 77, 78. And he had a couple drivers. David Pearson was one of them. And I think it was Kel Yarborough. I paid attention, but I didn't pay attention. So it's kind of, squirrel. So he won 2 championships, but he was really known as a race strategist and putting his drivers in certain situations where they were going to be successful. He had a quote that was on the dashboard, and it always said, think. And so he wanted his drivers to always be thinking of their next move, thinking about what they're going to do upcoming in the race and all that other stuff. So it was pretty cool to have an interesting, little 90-second video of him and what he's accomplished. So it's cool to see somebody who doesn't get recognized as a big-time name, as a guy who drove in the Petty era and race strategist in the Petty era, like to have him win 96 times, that's pretty amazing. And the amount of championships that they won with Pearson is pretty cool. So, it kind of shocked me a little bit. And then, he's not in just the NASCAR Hall of Fame as he's going in this year. He's also in the North Carolina Auto Racing Hall of Fame. He's in the National Motorsports Press Association Stock Car Racing Hall of Fame. Try to say that 5 times fast. He's at the International Motorsports Hall of Fame, which is where we're going tomorrow at Talladega. Motorsports Hall of Fame of America. He's from Massachusetts, so he's in the New England Auto Racers Hall of Fame. He's in the Drag Racing Hall of Fame, so I didn't know he was a drag racer. And then he's in the Old Timers Hall of Fame, that's kind of rude to put him in the Old Timers Hall of Fame, right? Can we think of a better name than that? Like the Pioneer Hall of Fame or Pioneer Motorsport Hall of Fame, you know what I mean? So, yeah, he has some accolades to him, so I'll give it to him. And then now you can add NASCAR Hall of Famer to his pedigree as well. So, yeah, that was an interesting little fact check that I tried to get, 5 minutes
Yeah.
before the show started.
Well, you did a really good job. I see Joker Graphics in here. I wonder who that could be, Ricky.
Yeah,
But
let's ignore
good to have you here.
him.
Another person that you might not know dabbled in drag racing would be fellow Hall of Famer Ricky Rudd, as he. Yep, true story. He.
Hold on, time out before you start going. So when Zach starts doing like fun facts and like he'll go through the track history stuff, and if he sees me do I do a face to it, I'm like, I didn't know that. And one thing about this show is we go through what we're going to talk about, but we don't know. I don't know exactly what he's going to say, and so some of the stuff it's pretty interesting. And so actually, yeah, I didn't know that about Ricky. Was he? I want to actually. I'm a lie. Did he drive Bernstein's drag race with Top Fuel? Did he drag? Okay, I lied. I did know that. Sorry.
Boo. All right. So we all, at least seasoned NASCAR fans, know of Ricky Rudd and his incredible streak within the NASCAR community of winning 16 consecutive years from 1983 to 1998. And Ricky was able to earn 23 different Cup Series victories along his illustrious career, and was able to be the winner of the 1997 Brickyard 400. He was also the 1977 Rookie of the Year winner, and he's also at the time, the youngest Daytona 500 pole winner. And this was a incredible career from Ricky Rudd, also winning the 1992 IROC championship. As a Mark Martin fan, I know everything about there is to know when it comes to IROC, and that was like the best of the best racing. And for Ricky to get a championship there in the middle of a Mark Martin dominating run was pretty impressive. And he finished a career best runner-up in the 1991 NASCAR Cup Series championship. So Rudd was able to span a very long career with a remarkable 788 consecutive start streak, as the Rooster was known to just kind of stick around. And for his short temper, the man was always requiring respect from his competitors out on the racetrack, and if you didn't get it to him, he would let you know. And known for a bit of a short fuse, Rudd was able to make both friends and enemies out there on the track, but also he required everyone's respect. His 905 total starts in his career spanned 4 decades in NASCAR's highest of levels, and he is only second in starts to Richard Petty. And Ricky Rudd gets into the Hall of Fame. I grew up loving Ricky Rudd. I loved his personality. He was kind of like the anti Mark Martin. So like he was always so like mild mannered and raced you hard and demanded respect. And Ricky also raced hard and demanded respect, but he would chew a guy out when something wrong happened to him. And I got my dose of drama when rooting for Ricky Rudd. So I love seeing him in the Hall of Fame. What are your thoughts here on Ricky Rudd making it into the Hall?
Yeah, had a great. I remember I called it the Iron Man streak.
Yep.
I remember that. I think he beat Terry Labonte, if I'm not mistaken, when it came to that. So I'm just gonna do a quick Ricky Rudd memory. Like I remember 2003 Richmond, him and Harvick got into it, and at the time Harvick was the one where like I'm not taking nobody's crap. Hot shot young kid. Him and Rudd are banging doors, and then I remember Harvick after the race came up to his car and they had this big altercation on pit road, and that's what I remember of Ricky Rudd. I do remember him winning the Brickyard. I think he was in the Tide car. I think the number was either 10 or 27. I want to say it was 10. And I remember seeing that thing. That thing was bright, and you could tell where that car was at all times on the racetrack. So, yeah, there's some memories, and I think he raced for Richard Childress for a little bit before Earnhardt got into the car and kind of wrote that story to its end. Driving the 2?
Yep.
3? 2? Okay, 2. It was a Wrangler car, I know that. I remember seeing that at the Richard Childress Hall of Fame, and he had a very solid career, right? I mean, man, 980 something starts. That's wild. Let's put in perspective how long that is. So right now there's 36 points paying events in NASCAR. You times that by however many you think 988 is equivalent to. That's crazy.
I
yeah,
mean,
decades.
You got to think, like, he won Rookie of the Year in 77, and then, like, I mean, I'm old enough to remember watching on Sundays Ricky Rudd race, and like early 2000s, like, that is an incredible benchmark, and a record that folks will try to go after, but I don't think we'll see broken. So incredible career by Ricky Rudd. Gets in 82% of the voting. Great honor for him. A man with 73 victories across NASCAR's top series also makes it into the Hall of Fame. Your favorite cousin, Carl, as Carl Edwards backflips his way into the NASCAR Hall of Fame. He had a 13-year career in the Cup Series. 11 of them was with Jack Roush, and 2 of them were with Joe Gibbs. At the highest level of NASCAR, he had 28 wins, and of course, his signature backflip off the race car became a fan favorite. He is the winner of the Southern 500 and the Coca-Cola 600, and ultimately is one of the sport's largest enigmas, as he lost the 2011 NASCAR Cup Series title under the format where, as we talked about in the past, there were drivers, 4 of them, racing for a championship, and Carl Edwards was able to put himself in a position at Homestead Miami Speedway to win, but ultimately came up short due to, well, help, and managed to walk away from NASCAR entirely. Edwards has always been a bit of a what-if story across NASCAR talk, including this past week with Kyle Larson saying, I would like Carl Edwards to go and test my car at North Wilkesboro while I'm doing stuff at Indianapolis. So I think that's crazy, and certainly a fan favorite if he hops back into the car, even if it is just for practice. But Edwards now enjoys a bit of a private life, and for many years, not a lot of people knew where Carl Edwards could be found. Long story short, he's a bit of a farmer now, and manages his own land, and is enjoying the fruits of a NASCAR career that is surrounded by many questions over what could have been. What are your thoughts here with Carl Edwards? I mean, he's got 73 wins across NASCAR's top series. He, won a ton of Xfinity races. He's got 5 Craftsman Truck Series wins, and Edwards finished first or second in the Xfinity Series championship for 5 consecutive years. He finally won that championship in 2007. This one is not as concrete as a Ricky Rudd, only getting 52% of the votes, squeaking into the Hall.
Yeah, you could see the voters, right? He walks away probably in the prime of his career. He gets into the wreck at Homestead with battling for his last championship. I believe that was like in 21, 22 maybe. Right before I think it was 2 years before they went to the next gen car, and Yeah, this one, I'm gonna be honest, Zach. This one's kind of debatable. You can say he's good enough to be in it, right? Or he's good enough not to be in it. I mean, the 78 wins does help. The Southern 500 helps. The Coca-Cola 600, those are crown jewel events. It's not winning the Daytona 500, which is the biggest race of the year for the Cup guys. This one, man, I'm not lost. He only did get 52% of the vote, so it's not like he got in there by majority. I mean, I guess majority got him in with 52, but it's not unanimous, right? Like, I mean, Rudd was at 80 something percent. So, um, I mean, I know he's a fan favorite with all the fans. He won races, the signature backflip, as you said. Yeah, and I was starting to think through his Xfinity career of that's probably what got him in.
Yeah.
Obviously the 28 Cup wins, that's really good. I mean, Dale Jr. has what, 29, and but he also has 2 Daytona 500s, and he has 2 Xfinity championships back to back, right? So, and a successful car owner. And Carl's also been a great ambassador to NASCAR. I know he was back at the track at a race last year, and I'm not really familiar. I'm not sure which track it was. But he's always been a great ambassador to the sport. He tries to put it out there, market it as best he can, and I'm with you. I hope he does get into the car with Larson in Indianapolis and gets a chance to run laps. That'll be so cool for the fans to see him come back, and it could have big. It's the biggest what if story, especially with a guy that he's in his prime. That's what shocked me is this dude's in his prime. He's in top equipment at Joe Gibbs Racing, and says, "Nope, I'm done. I'm walking away." So there's probably something that went on with that last wreck that yep, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm looking out for my future and all that stuff. So yeah, this one's kind of a bit like I'm not questioning it. I get it, but it's kind of like it's a head scratcher for me. Like, do we really think he's that good to be in the Hall of Fame?
Yeah. Edwards is famous in terms of predicting the future of NASCAR. In that championship run, they were questioning stage racing years and years and years before it came into effect in the sport. And you can find that interview on YouTube where Carl is diametrically opposed to what eventually NASCAR will become. He said, why are we racing 4 mini races in one race? It doesn't make any sense. And you're gonna maybe like award points to these drivers that are racing, and of course we know that's the NASCAR of today. And perhaps he saw the writing on the wall. Perhaps he was tired of the championship drama that comes with an elimination style format. We'll never know. I don't think we'll ever know the reason why Carl chose to walk away. I have an opinion about Carl Edwards, but I am afraid to share it on the internet. I feel like there's a lot of frantic Carl Edwards fans, and don't get me wrong, I like Carl Edwards, and I appreciate what he's done in his career. And look, I'm not stupid. My favorite driver of all time never won a Cup championship, and so I don't hold that against drivers to get into the Hall of Fame. But on the flip side, for a long time, my favorite driver was the face of the Xfinity series, and had records that nobody ever thought could be broken until Kyle Busch was born. And the reality is that when I look at Carl Edwards making it into the NASCAR Hall of Fame, and there's been some picks before him, and today I'm just going to pick on Carl, but this turns the Hall into the Hall of very good. I just don't. I struggle to see it. I really do. And if he would have kept going at Gibbs in that top tier ride, I mean, I'm sure he probably would have gotten a Cup Series championship. He probably would have rattled a bunch more wins in that car. But the reality is we'll never know. And so what we have on paper is what we have to judge his efforts to get to the Hall of Fame. And I've clamored for a few years now about how the voting needs to be upped a little bit more. I mean, you take a look at the Baseball Hall of Fame, what it requires to get in to get that percentage of the vote. that should be hard. It should be an elite place where the best of the best reside, and sometimes people don't get in, and that's okay. Um, I'm of the opinion I would like to think I'm okay in saying that because 48% of the voters said no, and I am in that camp. I just think that there's no shame in being very good, and that's what Carl Edwards was. He's very good. I don't think the Hall of Fame is a place where very good should reside. I don't know how you feel about that, but that's where I'm at when it comes
Yeah,
to this debate.
yeah, I think we're kind of in agreement right now of yeah, all the points that you just touched. That I'm with you 100%. Like very good. Like Hall of Fame is supposed to be elite status. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, and there's some guys in baseball that will never make the Hall of Fame, right? Barry Bonds, Alex Rodriguez, Mark McGuire, Sammy Sosa. None of those guys are probably going to be into the Hall of Fame. And Holden, if you're watching, that's the Giants reference for you. Got a friend that's a big Giants fan, and
Mm,
we've known to have some discussions about Mr. Barry Bonds, and so
mm,
there's just some yeah, some guys just shouldn't make it, and I hate to say this because I know he's a fan favorite again. I don't think he's deserving to be in the Hall. And again that's just my opinion, but I mean I'd be interested to see who he ran against to see, and I didn't know who he ran against to like that put him over the edge, and to have 48% say nah, I don't think he's good enough to be in the Hall. So now again, there's a 52% that said yeah he is good enough, and eventually that's what got him in. So yeah, I want to interested to now to see what his speech is going to be like, and I know who he's going to thank and all that stuff. But like, I wonder if he touches the subject, knowing that Carl don't care when he talks to the media. He don't care. So I'm interested to see if he throws in a little bit of shade to the people during his acceptance speech.
yeah, we'll have to see. I'm glad I gave you permission to speak your mind. I kind of watched you walk a tightrope there for a little bit, and then the real Ricky came out. So that's good. That's good.
I don't want to piss anybody off on the internet. I mean, if it's on the internet, it's got to be real, right? It's got to
Yeah.
be true.
Yeah, I mean, we're only talking about virtual race cars going around in circles. So, all right. Well, let's shift gears and take a look at Talladega. We've spent enough time at that pit stop. Now we shift our focus and talk about a iconic venue where these drivers are going to be tested. This racetrack was bought with a land that was going to be leased by the United States government to make a special ops Air Force field. And yet racing survives. It finds a way. And Talladega was born out of a land purchase that to the public was pretty unexpected, but yet the determination of different southeastern racing fans wanted to build a metropolis of racing fortitude, a racetrack that would not be rivaled in size and amenities for its time. And man, has Talladega lived up to that, where now we have, at the time, when it was born, cars racing too fast around the racetrack in order to deem it safe. NASCAR, the sanctioning body, is able to come up with a solution, restrictor plate racing, to create a bit of a style of racing that many fans now enjoy when it comes to pack racing and making sure that nobody gets too far away at the Daytona, Talladegas, and now Atlanta Motor Speedways. Fun fact for Talladega, the fastest race ever driven was here at Talladega, and it is held by, well, the greatest driver to have ever raced a race car, Mark Martin. And that record will never be broken because of the technology of the day. You have drivers not racing as fast as they used to, and the perfect storm happened on that day. Very little cautions and cars going exceedingly fast. We're out of that era of racing now, and Friday Night Fuel turns their attention to this mammoth of a racetrack where the big one is not a matter of if, but a matter of when for these competitors racing for a championship. Ricky, what are your thoughts, your keys to the race here at Dega?
Yeah, so it's basically going to be what we talked about earlier in the show with the top
Mm-hmm.
8. Those guys got to put themselves in prime position to get stage points because we know, as we say every week, how pivotal that thing is to make sure you get some halfway stage break points. And then B, it's going to be your track position. And where do you set yourself up for the eventual green flag pit stop? There is going to be some green flag pit stops probably going on in this event, right? So a lot of laps. It's going to test your patience at time. Not as much as a short track does, but it will test your patience when you feel like you're being stuck behind somebody and you're trying to switch lanes to get in front of them. And, how aggressive do you side draft in the corners? So when the cars, where you can pull back people and you get on their quarter panel and it just sucks, the air just sucks that car that it just pulls them back. When do you start doing that? What strategy do you take? Do you take 2 tires and then at the stage break, do you come down slap 4 on and then do you do 2 tires again, or do you come down take 4 and then 2 4? Like there's so much things that do you take none at all? We don't know. So there's going to be a lot of games being played tomorrow, but those top 8 guys for sure got to put themselves in a position where they just got to be there at the end. So maybe Kirby's going to win. If he survives Garrett, yeah, I definitely believe that one, Till. And you got to be looking out for people that are just looking to retaliate. So good point for bringing that one up, Till. You just got to be there at the right time, at the right place. You know the wreck is happening. You don't know when, but you just got to be able to drive out of it. If you got to get on the brakes, some people may just chill in the back for a little bit. The guys that aren't really racing for a championship right now, that don't have a lot on the line, I know those guys are going to probably be super aggressive. I'm going to try to control the race. I know the leader likes to control the race. We saw that in the Tier 1 Daytona 500 we were 13 laps into that event, and guys are already, like, blocking lanes and stuff. And that was kind of wild to see that early on in the race. But anything could happen tomorrow night. I think for us, at the end of the day, we just got to be there at the end. You got to put yourself in a prime position to just get overall points. And maybe we chill in the back for a little bit and kind of just let those guys do what they do. And hopefully, well, I hate to say this because it is a competition, but then again, half of me doesn't care. I hope they wreck and they burn that fast repair early, and then they have to be a little bit more cautious with that extra fasty not in their back pocket. So, yeah, a lot of games going to be played tomorrow night, and it's going to be interesting to see who comes out on top.
All right. We are in the part of the show where I get to predict the winner of the race, and I want the internet to know that what I'm going to say has a little asterisk next to it. And normally in iRacing, we don't have mechanical failures, right? We either hit the wall and evoke them ourselves. But the biggest mechanical failure that a virtual race car driver can have is internet failure. And the asterisk is if the driver does not have internet failure. That's the thing on my pick. And I also want everyone to know that when I do these picks, I try to be as impartial as humanly possible and honestly pick the person that I think is going to win. And I want you to get real close. Okay. So, I'm going to let the internet know a little secret. Okay, look at me. In my eyes. I know who's going to win tomorrow. Without a shadow of a doubt. If his internet holds out. And it's because I will be pushing the ever-living shit out of the back of his race car. I'm picking David Motorspa to win at Talladega because David has never won a league race before. And he is the co-owner of the team that I get to race on here at Friday Night Fuel. And he wants this race more than the air that he breathes. And so I'm going to do everything I possibly can to make sure that we see that one in victory lane, baby. I'm picking David Motorsport to win at Talladega. Let's go. That's my pick, and I haven't been more defiant about any other logic than what I am right now. He's never won before, but he's dang good at these plate tracks, man. Everything that I have learned about plate racing has come from him. He knows how to manipulate the air. He does a really good job at leading a line. He just needs the opportunity where his internet holds out, and he can go and win the thing. That's it. We haven't even talked about finding your friends and doing team orders or anything like that, but that's my prerogative. And so, David, if you're watching, I don't even know if you are. You might be on Xbox right now, which kudos to you if you're oblivious to this. I'm picking David to win at Talladega tomorrow.
Yeah, I didn't know that y'all had kind of some team orders going on, and
two people who aren't racing for the championship, and we've never cared about team points. So why not?
Yeah, why not? That's a valid point. 2 words with a question mark. Why not? I didn't know how motivated he was to try to win this race either. So yeah, I'd look interested to see how that one car does. That internet has to hold out though. Like if there's one place that it needs to hold out, it's here.
Yep.
So David, if you're listening, go buy an extender. Go do something where you're not blinking all over the racetrack, where you can withstand Zach pushing you or somebody from your team pushing you. And if you had PO, I know PO would push him to the win. I don't know if Cody will show up tomorrow night or not, but you also have a stable of Alliance drivers that are right next to you. So, yeah, let's get it. I'd like to help out if we can and try to get David his first league win. I didn't know he hasn't won a league race. That's another interesting fact.
Nope.
I didn't know that.
Nope. So we've
we got some motivation tomorrow. I want to see him in victory lane. Let's see what we can do.
Yeah. So
but don't let me push him. I'll tell you that right now. Don't let me push him.
I told you you'd become somebody's best friend tomorrow. Here's your opportunity. So you might get a 2-for-1 if you push David. I'll be your best friend. I don't care. Just trying to have some fun here, folks. Thank you for the folks who stuck around. Any closing thoughts here for tonight before we log off here, Ricky?
Yeah, just appreciative of everybody tuning in week in and week out. It means a lot to us to have this thing go now 12 episodes. It's pretty cool where we started. And everybody who's watched other platforms with Zach doing videos. I know he just dropped a weekly NASCAR thing that he's doing. Go like Zach Talks Hawks. Go do that. I got to throw that plug out there for you.
Not till after Super Bowl. You don't have to go there.
Yeah, you're
Nothing's
one of
happening.
my good friends now over on the server. And yeah, whatever we do to try to promote other stuff that we're doing within our personal lives or whether it's a hobby that we do such as this, just very appreciative of everybody watching. So we'll try to keep this thing going. We'll take a week off next week, so we won't do anything next week, and then we'll come back. Actually, sir, I'll be in sunny California when we do the next time we're on the show. So, again, appreciative of everybody tuning in. It means a lot to us. Keep liking, get that bell notification when we go live. You're tuning in, and let's go get them tomorrow night. Let's see what we got, and let's see who the 4 guys are going to be racing for a championship.
All right, you're all fueled up and ready to go. We hope you had a great time here on the show tonight. For my first round draft pick, Ricky Gonzalez. My name is Zach Woods, and we hope all of y'all have a great night. See you later.